Where do we leave off? Let him live. He'll go climbing higher up the mountain, and some cloud will come rolling and carry him away. And they passed on, but the huntsman had heard all they said, and as soon as they were gone, he climbed up to the top of the mountain, and when he had sat there a short time, a cloud came rolling around him, and caught him in a whirlwind, and bore him along for some time, till it settled in a garden, and he fell quite gently to the ground amongst the greens and cabbages. Then he looked around him and said, I wish I had something to eat. If not, I shall be worse off than before. For here I see neither apples nor pears, nor any kind of fruit, nothing but vegetables. At last he thought to himself, I can eat a salad. It will refresh and strengthen me. So he picked out a fine head and ate of it. But scarcely had he swallowed 2 bites when he felt himself quite changed, and saw with horror that he was turned into an ass. However, he still felt very hungry, and the salad tasted very nice, so he ate on, till he came to another kind of salad, and scarcely had tasted it when he felt another change over him. Soon saw that he was lucky enough to have found his old shape again. Then he laid himself down and slept off a little of his weariness. And when he awoke the next morning, he broke off a head of both of the good and the bad salad, and thought to himself, this will help me to my fortune again, and enable me to pay off some folks for their treachery. So he went away to try and find the castle of his old friends, and wandering about a few days, he luckily found it. Then he stained his face all over brown, so that even his mother would not have known him, and went into the castle and asked for lodging. I am so tired, said he, that I can go no further. Countryman, said the fairy, who are you, and what is your business? I am, said he, a messenger sent by the king to find the finest salad that grows under the sun. I have been lucky enough to find it and have brought it with me. But the heat of the sun scorches so that it begins to wither, and I don't know that I can carry it further. The fairy and the young lady heard of this beautiful salad. They longed to taste it and said, Dear countryman, let us just taste it. To be sure, answered he, I have 2 heads of it with me, and I will give you 1. So he opened his bag and gave them the bad. Then the fairy herself took it into the kitchen to be dressed, and when it was ready, she could not wait till it was carried up, but took a few leaves immediately and put them in her mouth, and scarcely were they swallowed when she lost her own form and began braying down into the court of the form of an ass. Now the servant maid came into the kitchen, and seeing the salad ready, was going to carry it up, but in the way she too felt a wish to taste it, was as the old woman had done, and ate some loaves. So she also was turned into an ass, and ran after the other, letting the dish with the salad fall on the ground. The messenger sat all this time with the beautiful young lady, And as nobody came with the salad, and she longed to taste it, she said, "I don't know where the salad can be." Then he thought something must have happened and said, "I will go into the kitchen and see." And as he went, he saw the two asses in the court running about and the salad lying on the ground. "All right," said he, "those two have had their share." Then he took up the rest of the leaves, laid them on a dish, and brought them to the young lady, saying, "I bring you the dish myself, that you may not wait any longer." So she ate of it, and like the others, ran off into the court, braying away. The huntsman washed his face, and went into the court that they might know him. "Now you shall be paid for your roguery," said he, and tied them all three to a rope, and took them along with him till he came to a mill, and knocked at the window. "What's the matter?" said the miller. I have 3 troublesome beasts here," said the other. If you take them, give them food and room, and treat them as I tell you. I will pay you whatever you ask, with all my heart."
"With all my heart," said the miller. "But how shall I treat them?"
Then the huntsman said, "Give the old one stripes 3 times a day, and hay once. Give the next, who was the servant maid, stripes once a day, and hay 3 times. And give the youngest, who was the beautiful lady, hay 3 times a day and no stripes." For he could not find it in his heart to have her beaten. After this he went back to the castle, where he found everything he wanted. Some days after, the miller came to him and told him that the old ass was dead. "The other 2," he said,
"are alive and eat, but are so sorrowful that they cannot last long."
Then the huntsman pitied them, and told the miller to drive them back to him. And when they came, he gave them some of the good salad to eat. And the beautiful young lady fell upon her knees before him and said, "Oh, dearest huntsman, forgive me all the ill I have done you. My mother forced me to it. It was against my will, for I always loved you very much. Your wishing cloak hangs up in the closet, and as for the bird's heart, I will give it to you too." But he said, "Keep it. It will be just the same thing, for I mean to make you my wife." So they were married, and they lived together very happily till they died.
The nose.
Did you ever hear the story of the 3 poor soldiers who, after having fought hard in the wars, set out on their road home, begging their way as they went? They had journeyed on a long way, sick at heart with their bad luck at thus being turned loose on the world in their old days, when one evening they reached a deep, gloomy wood through which they must pass. Night came fast upon them, and they found that they must, however, unwillingly sleep in the woods. So, to make all as safe as they could, it was agreed that 2 should lie down and sleep, while the 3rd sat up and watched lest wild beasts should break in and tear them to pieces. When he was tired, he was to wake one of the others and sleep in his turn, and so on with the third, so as to share the work fairly amongst them. Two who were to rest first soon lay down and fell asleep, and the other made himself a good fire under the trees, and sat down by the side to keep watch. He had not sat long before all of a sudden there came up a little man in a red jacket. "Who's there?" said he.
A friend,
said the soldier.
What sort of friend?
"An old broken soldier," said the other.
With his two comrades who have nothing left to live on. Come, sit down, warm yourself.
"With his two comrades who have nothing to live on. Come sit down and warm yourself."
Well, my worthy fellow, said the little man, I will do what I can for you. Take this and show it to your comrades in the morning.
So he took out an old cloak and gave it to the soldier, telling him that whenever he put it over his shoulders, anything he wished for would be fulfilled. Then the little man made him a bow and walked away. The second soldier's turn to watch soon came, and the first laid himself down to sleep. But the second man had not sat by himself long before the little man came in the red jacket again. The soldier treated him in a friendly way as his comrade had done, and the little man gave him a purse, which he told him was always full of gold. Let him draw as much as he would. Then the third soldier's turn to watch came, and he also had the little man for a guest, who gave him a wonderful horn that drew crowds around it whenever it was played, and had everyone forget his business to come and dance to its beautiful music. In the morning, each told his story and showed his treasures. And as they all liked each other very much and were old friends, they agreed to travel to see the world. And for a while, only to make use of the wonderful purse, and thus they spent their time very joyously till at last they began to be tired of this roving life and thought they should like to have a home of their own. So the first soldier put on his cloak and wished for a fine castle. In a moment it stood before their eyes. Fine gardens and green lawns spread around it, and flocks of sheep and goats and herds of oxen were grazing about. And out of the gate came a fine coach with 3 dapple gray horses to meet them and bring them home. All this was very well for the time, but it would not do to stay at home always. So they got together their rich clothes and horses and servants, and ordered their coach with 3 horses to set out on a journey to see a neighboring king. Now this king had an only daughter, and as he took the 3 soldiers for king's sons, he gave them a kind welcome. One day, as the second soldier was walking with the princess, she saw him with the wonderful purse in his hand, and having asked him what it was, he was foolish enough to tell her, though indeed it did not much signify, for she was a witch, and knew all the wonderful things that the 3 soldiers brought. Now this princess was very cunning and artful, so she set to work and made a purse, so like the soldiers, that no one would know one from the other, and then asked him to come and see her, and made him drink some wine that had she had got ready for him. Never drink it unless you've watched it be prepared, man. Till he fell fast asleep. And then she felt in his pocket and took away the wonderful purse. So it's like a coin purse. It's not like a shoulder bag. Okay, and left the one she made in its place. The next morning, the soldiers set out home, and soon after they reached their castle, happening to want some money. They went to their purse for it and found something in it. But to their great sorrow, when they had emptied it, none came in the place of what they took. When the cheat was soon found out, for the second soldier knew where he had been and how he had been told the story to the princess, and he guessed that she had betrayed him. Alas, he cried, poor wretches that we are. What shall we do? Oh, said the first soldier, let no gray hairs grow for this mishap. I will soon get the purse back. So he threw his cloak across his shoulder and wished himself into the princess's chamber. Dude, invasion of privacy much? There he found her sitting alone. Oh, well, at least she's in the room at the time. Telling her gold that fell around her in a shower from the purse. But the soldier stood looking at her too long. For the moment she saw him, she started up and cried out with all her force, "Thieves! Thieves!" So that the whole court came running in and tried to seize him. Dang, that's great security, ma'am. We read that already. The poor soldier now began to be dreadfully frightened in his turn, and thought it was high time to make the best of his way off. So, without thinking of the ready way of traveling that his cloak gave him, he ran to the window, opened it, and jumped out. And unluckily, in his haste, his cloak caught, and was left hanging, to the great joy of the princess, who knew its worth. The poor soldier made the best of his way home to his comrades on foot, and in a very downcast mood. But the third soldier told him to keep apart, and took his horn and blew a merry tune. Excuse me. At the first blast, a countless troop of foot and horse came rushing to their aid, and they set out to make war against their enemy. Then the king's palace was besieged, and he was told that he must give up the purse and the cloak, for that not one stone should be left upon another. And the king went into his daughter's chamber and talked with her. But she said, "Let me try first. If I cannot beat them some other way." So she thought of a cunning scheme to overreach them, and dressed herself as a poor girl, with a basket on her arm, and set out by night with her maids, and went into the enemy's camp as if she wanted to sell trinkets. In the morning she began to ramble about, singing ballads so beautifully that all the tents were left empty, and the soldiers ran around in crowds and thought of nothing but hearing her sing. Amongst the rest came the soldier to whom the horn belonged, and as soon as she saw him, she winked to her maid, who slipped slyly through the crowd and went into his tent where it hung and stole it away. This done, they both got safely back to the palace and the besieging army went away. The 3 wonderful gifts were all left in the hands of the princess, and the 3 soldiers were penniless and forlorn as when the little man with the red jacket found them in the woods. Poor fellows, they began to think. What was now to be done? Comrades, at last the second soldiers. Alas, said the second soldier, who had the purse, we had better part. We cannot live together. Let each seek his bread as well as he can. So he turned to the right and the other 2 to the left, for they said they would rather travel together. Then on he strayed till he came to a wood. Now this was the same wood where they had met with so much good luck before. And he walked on a long time till evening began to fall, and he sat down tired beneath a tree and soon fell asleep. Morning dawned, and he was greatly delighted at opening his eyes to see that the tree was laden with the most beautiful apples. He was hungry enough, so he soon plucked and ate first one, then a second one, then a third. A strange feeling came over his nose. When he put the apple to his mouth, something was in the way. He felt it. It was his nose that grew and grew till it hung down to his breast. So like that much. Anyway. It did not stop there. It grew and grew. Heavens! Thought he. When will it have done growing? And, well, might he ask? For by this time it reached the ground as he sat on the grass, and thus it kept creeping on till he could not bear its weight or raise himself up, and it seemed as if it would never end, for already it stretched its enormous length all through the wood. Meantime, comrades were journeying on, till on a sudden one of them stumbled against something. What can that be?